Welcome back to episode 3 of Below the Surface with Caleb.
And Jensine.
There we go. We're going to get there eventually. I'm Caleb. She's Jensen, obviously. And we're the Surface family. And we are doing our best to start a podcast and family vlog channel. How do you think it's going so far?
Our friends think it's great.
We've gotten great feedback from friends, so that's a positive. Eventually, though, we're going to need to get viewers that are beyond just of our immediate friends.
Sure.
But so far, at least the people who like us think it's good. So that's a positive.
We'll just keep doing it.
What have been your overall thoughts so far?
It's not as awkward as I thought it would be.
Sure.
At the beginning it was, and most of it was built up in my head. This is awkward because I'm talking to a camera to people that I can't see. But I overheard you listening to a vlogger saying that he had to get to the point where he needed to talk to the camera like it was a person rather than a camera. And so that is my goal today, is to talk to the camera like it's a person.
Yeah, like there's a person that's on that adventure with us or something to that effect. I don't think it's quite a clean and cut, this is a person, because we don't interact with a person in that same way, right? Because a person can look around the environment and see kind of what we're seeing and what the environment we're in. So it's a little bit different than that, but just imagining like, okay, this isn't a camera, it's a person that we're communicating to, helps us to kind of remember that. I think maybe even thinking of it as a person, like a specific person that we're taking video of our adventure to send it to, rather than just kind of this nebulous person that exists in the ether. Would you agree?
Yeah. And also another thing that I'm really enjoying that I haven't really thought of, but then it came to my mind, was that we are documenting our lives.
Sure.
Specifically this life stage. And even like today, what we're going to do is talk about what it was like to grow up in California, or what it was like to grow up in Hawaii. And I've dreamed of writing a diary or starting one, but then it just never got around to actually being consistent with it. And then, of course, it's like, okay, what kind of like book do I start writing? And is it going to be like leather bound, or is it going to have some fun design? And then for me, it has to be the same. Like they have to be like the same book. So then that just got too complicated. So I never really started one, but I think that this is kind of neat, where we can keep records of what we're doing through the vlogging or through podcasting. So I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Something that we can look back at.
Yeah. I agree. I was working on a video on Saturday night when we went out, and as we were walking around the park, Ala Moana Beach Park, I was just kind of thinking through and just recording different segments of what will hopefully be a video that comes out soon. Just talking about my own personal transformation and how this vlog has given me an opportunity to really pioneer that a little more distinctly. And so I don't want to give away the entire concept of that video, but just talking through, why do I tend to do the things that I do? Like, why do I act the way that I act, rather than choosing things that, as I look at them, they're obviously better. They're obviously more enjoyable. They lead to better experiences, a better life for myself and for the rest of our family. And so just giving us an opportunity to pursue that as well. Like for me, a personal transformation along the way. I've enjoyed it. And
me too.
I mean, we're really early in. We are both still learning a lot about this whole process, but even within that learning space, I'm finding that there are really, really cool things along the way. I will say, though, that I'm also realizing it wasn't as simple as I thought. I think it was in my mind.
Just
doing
going
all
about
this,
vlogging.
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of in my mind at the beginning, it was like, okay, well, we'll just go do fun stuff and video it, and then it will be a really cool. That's how you
sold me
vlog.
On this.
Yeah, it is.
You just basically video whatever you're doing.
I wasn't trying to feed you a lie, but I think I didn't realize, okay, this is going to be more than just video a bunch of random stuff. And to be clear, it's more like, okay, how we present this on a video needs context. It's
Yeah.
more just like, okay, we need more context. And I think it's more of just, we don't realize how much we naturally pull together in context for our day-to-day lives that goes unsaid. But when you're doing a video, it needs to be said. Or on video, just things that don't translate well, right? In the moment, like, this is a cool moment, you're videoing it, and then you go back and you watch that video of it later and you're going, okay, but this doesn't really, it doesn't come through the camera very well in this way. We have to either create a story around it that gives context to it and gives interest, or just enjoy that moment and be okay with it not making it into the video.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's been a fun process so far. But this podcast episode is not about our vlog, but that's a fun way. That's just a good opportunity to update it. So this is episode 3. What are we talking about in episode 3, Jensen?
We are talking about what it was like for me to grow up in California, Southern California. Northern and Southern California are distinctly different.
Yeah.
And so is Central California.
I know a lot of people who live in California think that it should be split up into 2 to 3 states just because it's so different.
Yeah, and just be careful, because some people might take offense to confusing, and I don't know, because we do have our prides.
Sure.
I have my Southern California pride.
Yeah.
I'm from there.
Well, you talked about it a little bit last week with your accent thing, right? Sometimes that little Southern California Valley girl accent makes an appearance. Most of the time, it's more of the Southern California Valley girl attitude that makes the appearance. But yeah, I think that California, if I could speak from my perspective as not being from there, I kind of lived there for 3 years, and then did live there for the 4th, for sure. The 3 years being when I was in college.
Yeah.
Wasn't really an experience. And then the 4th year,
you
I was
lived
still
in a dorm.
College. Yeah, living in a dorm.
In the Mojave Desert.
With no vehicle to go anywhere and have any experiences, just doesn't really count. Our 4th year, I was still in college, but we were married, had our own home, vehicle, kind of much more freedom to get out and about because of that. But
there were fun times then too.
From my perspective, California tends to be a very, in the minds of everybody, everyone's got an opinion on California, and every opinion on California is kind of extreme. No matter what your opinion is of California, I think it's really hard for people to just kind of nonchalantly think of California and just be like, yeah, whatever, California. It's no, it's not really a big deal. I don't really think about it that much, right? Like, I don't have an opinion on Indiana, for instance. Like, it just, I don't ever think of Indiana. I don't think about it. I don't think about Illinois, right? I don't, like, some of these like other random states, I just, they never cross my mind. I never think about South Dakota ever. Like, I just don't, right?
It's never crossed my mind either.
Right, but California, that word comes up, that name comes up, and like, whoa, there's reactions. Like, everyone's got their opinion and they want to voice it immediately. I mean, kind of. So that's kind of what I grew up with, or even still in my mind, despite having lived there, what comes to my mind. But I don't think that's your perspective or kind of what comes to your mind. So tell us about California.
Well, what it isn't is it's not always Hollywood and movie stars.
Sure.
The rest of us are just regular people.
Yeah.
Trying to make a living, or just trying to establish a family. That wasn't me. That was my parents. I was born and raised in Southern California. I was born in Paris, California. But then my parents just chose Moreno Valley. I don't know why, other than the fact that my dad said it reminded him of the Philippines. And that's what I remember him saying to someone else. And I'm thinking, what? That doesn't make sense, because it was...
Granted, you've never been to the Philippines.
Yeah, I've never been to the Philippines. But then when I think of the Philippines, I think...
what you've seen in pictures,
yeah,
or what's been described to you.
Trees and white sandy beaches and turquoise water and some jungle here and there. But then when you look at Moreno Valley, it's a desert.
Yeah.
Very brown.
So for those who aren't familiar with Southern California, Moreno Valley, you say Moreno, I say Moreno. I don't think no.
Moreno.
So if I say it differently than her, and not trying to correct her or anything like that, it's just how it got stuck in my head. But when you talk about Moreno Valley, it's part of what's known as the Inland Empire.
It's part of the Inland Empire. Moreno Valley is part of the Riverside County,
which is the county. I think the next county south of LA, right? No, there's another county between there. Rancho Cucamonga, I think, or Fontana or something. Anyways, it's south of LA.
Sure.
Riverside,
north of San Diego.
Yeah, north of San Diego. Riverside County, Riverside, the city, would probably be is much better known than Moreno Valley. San Bernardino County and San Bernardino, the city, are also now, for unfortunate reasons, much better known than Moreno Valley. Moreno Valley is kind of tucked in there with Riverside, San Bernardino, Paris, kind of right in that little valley.
I want to note that last week I mentioned something about Moreno Valley meaning brown. Now, Moreno Valley was not named Brown Valley because it's brown, even though it mostly is sometimes. It depends on
the weather.
What the weather is like. But it was actually named after someone whose last name was Brown. But I thought I should note that doesn't really mean Brown Valley because it's brown. It was named after someone whose last name was Brown.
Yeah. And you have arrived at Moreno Valley when you see
what?
The mountain with the M on it.
Oh,
right?
yes, Box Springs Mountain.
Yeah, right above, not the only house you lived in Moreno Valley, but the house that you were living in when I met you. That house was right at the base of a little
foot of the mountains, foot of the hills.
That one was more like a hill, but it wasn't big enough to be a mountain.
Don't talk on my mountain.
Well, there was much larger mountains in the area, right? But at the very top, someone had taken a bunch of white stones and
they mark them. That's actually common in Southern California.
All over Southern California.
You'll see the letter C.
In Corona, right?
In Corona. For Moreno Valley. Some fun little markers that you can find. But yeah, I actually took pride in that M. Yes. I don't know what it meant for a while. I didn't. But I was like, that's the M mountain. For mountain. That's how it played out in my brain as a kid.
So you grew up in Moreno Valley, but really you grew up in Southern California kind of as a whole.
Growing up in Southern California and being in the Inland Empire, we had a lot of access to fun things. San Bernardino Mountains, like Arrowhead. So during the winter, if we wanted to, we can take in essence, a quick drive and have snow for a day. Go tubing and frolic and play in the snow and then drive back down. And then we're back to warmer weather or not as cold and wet as the snow. You can drive towards Anaheim, go to Disneyland. There's also Knott's Berry Farms, delicious funnel cake. There's also driving out to the coast where there's Huntington Beach, Malibu, Balboa. If you go down south, there was San Diego and what San Diego has to offer, SeaWorld, San Diego Zoo.
Yeah.
A lot of fun things growing up as a kid I really loved.
Yeah, I think that was something that I definitely noticed, particularly when we were living there for that year after we were married. For me, what I noticed is kind of from that area, everything was a 2-hour drive away. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, like, oh, it takes 2 hours. Like, within 2 hours, you could be doing anything you could think of.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go out in the middle of nowhere in some crazy national park, 2 hours drive, you're at one.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go to one of California's most renowned beaches, 2 hours or less, right? Theme parks, 2 hours or less, right? Big city, LA, 2 hours or less. Up into the mountains to go skiing, 2 hours. Like, just anything you could possibly imagine. Yeah, it's a 2-hour drive or less away.
Mm-hmm. I always felt like it was more closer to an hour.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think at the extremities, right?
Yeah.
2 hours. Because going down to San Diego, right? If
Hmm.
you want to get into San Diego proper, it's going to be at least 2 hours, if
Hmm. Yeah.
as long as you don't hit traffic.
Yes, traffic. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah. That is one of the big negatives, though, of being in Southern California, especially in that area. Because technically, I don't know if technically, but the area you grew up in, it was kind of a commuter area. A
Hmm.
lot of people there were
Yeah.
commuting into LA or the surrounding areas of LA, Disney, or
Hmm.
the fashion districts, or just kind of other areas for work. And
Hmm.
that's like, in fact, your dad commuted for work for a long time as well, kind of into closer kind of into the LA area, right? Other family members. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but
Maybe he did for a little
I
while.
know for a
I think he
while he had to
did
get in that carpool that
during
was like an
when our
hour.
family was younger. I think when I was little, I think he did. And then my uncle, he for sure did that. I think he still does that.
Yeah,
He works for Disneyland, Disney's California Adventures.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he works for them. And he's been working for them for a long time. So then we always had free access when the when we could go. So that was always fun. My aunt also worked there when she was young. So then we would go to Disneyland
Yeah.
during that time. It was just a normal it was a normal thing that we did. But now living in here in Hawaii, it was like this huge deal.
To
You know,
go
if
to
you
Disney
yeah,
or
if you go to
something like that. Yeah.
Disneyland, because you fly and like during spring break and you're in the plane and everybody's
Yeah.
everybody's going to
Yeah.
Disneyland.
Last year for fall break, that's what we did, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
We took a trip over to California, Disneyland. You look around the plane, and everybody's wearing their Disney
Mm-hmm.
gear, their matching family T-shirts for Disney trip 2022.
Yes.
Such and such family or such and such Ohana Disney trip, Disney
Mm-hmm.
vacation. We
Yeah.
get to Anaheim, the hotel we're in. Everybody in the hotel that we're in is from Hawaii. You're
Mm-hmm.
walking
Yeah.
around Disney, and I'm like, that person's from Hawaii. That person's from Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
That person.
Yeah.
Like that trip is kind of a big
Yeah.
deal, but it's also a big deal for Southern California people. Like going to Disney is
Oh, they
just a
love
part
it.
of
We love it.
a part of the culture,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was it for you? What were some of the highlights of being from California, of growing up in that area? Like what do you think back on as just you think back and just kind of smile as you think about it?
Oh, when I look back, I love the diversity. And my mom and my dad were always huge. They are still huge on exploring and trying new things,
Mm-hmm.
trying different things. So growing up one time, my mom's friend invited us over and she taught us how to make tortillas from scratch, corn tortillas. And then we made Baja tacos with those tortillas. I still make Baja tacos to this day. But I don't make my own tortillas because I'm short on time and I feel like it is a labor
Yeah.
of love. And when I can't do it, I would do it. But yeah, so growing up, we would eat that. Pozole, a lot of Mexican food. Really cool thing about Southern California also is that you can get Mexican food, you can get Korean food, you can get Mexican Korean food
Yeah.
infusions.
Yeah.
I think that's something unique about Southern California.
The food scene there is
Yeah.
pretty incredible.
Yeah,
And
very
it's throughout,
diverse.
it's just throughout the whole area. It's not even like, oh, if you center in LA and just kind of go just there,
Yeah,
you're going to get good food. No, it's like the entirety of Southern California. Doesn't matter where you are, you're going to find really, really awesome
like
food
in
options.
in Moreno Valley, you can find Indian food, Mexican food, Thai food, Vietnamese food, Chinese food. I don't want to miss anybody.
Yeah.
And I pray I don't offend anybody,
You go
but
down the list.
you can really think
Sure.
of a lot of things. There's just
Yeah.
so many options.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great
Little
food experiences.
Bambinos. That was a fun weekend, a Sunday evening dinner that we had often.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What else besides food?
other than food, diversity with people. So a lot of Hispanics. There were Filipinos. There still are. Just there. I mean, growing up, it like I didn't feel like a minority, but then we also didn't think that way as kids.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that that's definitely something that you've talked about quite a bit, was
Hmm.
you never thought about the fact that you're kind of Pacific Islander Asian,
Yeah. You
like,
just like, we were
or
Southern Californians,
kind of
not really
Pacific Asian, right?
necessarily like feeling like a minority. Everybody in our class, I guess everybody we could say, yeah, like, yeah, we are a minority. But then if you really look at it, it's just, there was just a lot of everything. So,
Yeah.
but of course, that's just my perspective. I'm sure someone else's perspective is different, but I didn't really think about being a minority,
Yeah,
even though
because
maybe technically
it
we
wasn't
probably
hard to
were.
find
Yeah.
people that
Hmm.
looked like you or looked similar to
Yeah.
you, right?
Yeah.
I remember when we were traveling with your family through some state in the southeastern part of the U.S., we were doing a road trip to Florida with your family, and we had stopped in at a mall to just grab a bite to eat. And I don't remember at what point I realized, looking around the mall, you guys were the only not white people
Yes.
there. And I sat there and I just looked around and I realized, oh wow, everybody. And because I don't think about it either, because
Hmm.
I grew up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It just I don't think about color of skin,
Hmm.
period, because I and it's funny because I even just now I almost said, oh, I looked around the mall and I realized we were the only non-white people there, and I realized, wait a second, I'm white.
I do
My
that
skin is white.
too.
But just in that moment, just going, oh wow, I can't think of another moment in my life that I've been in such a distinctly
Hmm.
non-diverse situation.
Yeah.
And
That,
California is
yeah.
definitely as diverse as Hawaii,
Hmm.
if not in some ways even more so.
Hmm.
Southern California specifically.
Yeah. So I love Southern California. I love Southern California people because I know how they think,
Sure.
and they're not very pretentious at all. They're just easygoing, trying to make a living, and a little extra so they can go to Disneyland.
Right. Yeah. Well, what about like activities wise? What kind of activities were you and your family keen on?
Oh,
Because
camping.
you do things in Southern California that you don't really do in other places in the same way, at
Yeah.
least.
So we did camping. We did, trying to think, hiking in the mountains. We did, we went to the ocean.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of body surfing.
Well, just beach days in general, right?
Yeah, beach days, fishing a lot. We did. My dad loves fishing. Um, and there is just this certain, I don't know, fulfillment when you do catch a fish, like it chose you or something. um, but yeah, so some weekends we would spend nearly the whole day at a pier fishing. And if we got tired of fishing, then we would just lounge at the beach, go swimming for a little while, and then when we were ready to go home, we would bring some fish, and then never forget that smell when my mom would get it and descale it, and then we would have it. She would freeze it, and it would be in the freezer for a long time until she decided to make some fish soup or something.
Yeah.
So, but I remember looking back at that. I was very fond of. I'm very fond of those memories.
I think that's
My
been one of the hardest things for us to get used to with each other. I'm not a huge beach person to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I joke with people that I hate the beach. I don't actually hate the beach. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not. It's just not an activity that I love to go out and do. Like
I know.
I'm not the kind of guy that's just constantly like, I want to go to the beach. Let's do that today.
Mm-hmm.
There are other activities, even getting out of the house, or other activities that I would enjoy more. So I'm not a huge beach guy, but when I do go to the beach, it's very different than when you go to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
because you grew up, like you said, you go all day, right?
Yeah.
First thing in the morning before the sun's up, even you guys are packing the car, getting in the car, driving
Yeah.
a couple hours.
And part of it is we're taking a trip there.
Yeah, because it's a
It,
longer trip
yeah.
to get there.
So, I mean, we wanted to make sure that we got the most out of that trip. Also, another activity I was just thinking, outlet malls.
Well, I was gonna say about the
Oh,
beach though.
sorry.
Whereas for me, I'm like, 2 hours, maybe 3. It's time to go home. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home. Even if I get in the water, it's like a couple of hours. I'm ready. So It's just kind of a different, kind of a different way of thinking about it between us.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's something specific to Southern California per se, but just
Yeah.
more of how you thought about it because of your experience growing
Well,
up there.
that
Because
was
you
my
had to
family.
yeah, because you guys had to drive
Yeah.
so much longer to get to the beach there. Whereas for us here,
Yeah.
the longest you can drive to have to go to one beach is probably an hour, maybe at tops.
Like 10 minutes,
But we
babe.
no, I'm just saying, like, if we wanted to go the furthest beach away,
Oh, yeah, sure.
it's maybe an hour.
It's like literally
But
right there.
you can get a beach much closer. And so it's just, we don't think about it as big of a deal. Right.
Yeah.
But okay, you were saying
Outlet malls.
outlet
I was just thinking about Victoria Gardens, Ontario Mills,
Cabazon.
Oh yeah, Cabazon. That way, that direction out.
I've still never been there with you guys.
Oh yeah, so we would wait maybe around Thanksgiving, Black Friday, or even after Christmas when we got all of our gift cards, because I remember when gift cards became the gift to give, especially if you didn't know someone well or you're just...
Or you're just lazy shopping.
Yeah,
right?
this just seems like a good option.
Not
but yeah,
dissing on gift cards. To be clear, I like a good gift card.
We would pack our purses with our gift cards, and our parents would just let us wreak havoc. And but yeah, we were very limited to what we were allowed to buy and how much we were allowed to spend. But we did like to go window shopping a lot, just going out and just seeing, and we didn't necessarily buy everything that we wanted. Because that's not where our family was at that time financially. But that's something that I remember doing a lot, even as like a small child. I remember going to the mall and walking around. And I loved seeing the mall during Christmas time, and everything was decorated, listening to Christmas music. We never bought anything, but we just walked around. It was just a family activity that we did. So yeah, that was something unique to our family. I don't know if every Southern California family does that, but that's something that we did. And that's something that I do remember having access to, is just a lot of top-notch outlet malls.
Or just malls in general.
The malls in general.
I'm still not entirely sure what classifies a mall as an outlet mall, but
and they were decent.
There are, just all over Southern California.
And that was during the
They're
time when like
malls.
hanging out at the mall was cool too.
Basically, all the malls there are really cool, except for the mall that was in your guys' town.
But I thought it was cool.
I just know that you and your sisters have always teased the Moreno Valley Mall.
Yeah, a little bit. And then there was that one, or there was Tyler Mall in Riverside.
With the fancy pet store.
Yeah, and they had a Barnes & Noble. That was cool.
And Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah. They were cooler, but it's okay.
So what was it like for you, particularly making the transition from living in Southern California to living in Hawaii? What was kind of different about it? What was difficult? Just more specifically rooted in being from a place like SoCal to coming to a place like Hawaii. And then what do you miss about Southern California specifically while here?
I remember when we did move here, everybody was apologizing for the very warm weather. And I was thinking, everybody's very apologetic about the weather. Like, it's never this hot. It's just really, really hot. But I'm thinking, I'm from the desert,
and in the almost 9 years we've been here since you've gone, it's always this hot.
Yeah. Actually, this year has been the
It's
coolest
just
summer that I've
abnormal.
experienced. But I was like,
what are
why
you
are
talking
they
about? It's
apologizing
always
for
this
the
hot.
weather? But yeah, now that I look back, I'm like, it's always the same. But yeah, everybody was apologizing about how warm it was. And I do remember thinking, yes, it's warm, but if anything, it was very humid. And I had to adjust to that. The humidity, I grew up in the Desert Valley, which is drier, not completely dry, but dry enough to know the difference between dry and humidity. And so yeah, the scenery was gorgeous. And even still to this day, as we're driving around, I think, wow, I can't believe we live here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Just the foliage is different. The palm trees are different.
Very different palm trees
and
here.
yes, I would agree that yours are nicer, but
I don't know if it's nicer.
yours as in like Hawaiian palm trees.
Right?
Yeah. I remember you saying when we were younger, you're like, California palm trees are ugly. And I would say, yeah.
I've since come to appreciate them.
Yeah.
Because they're distinct.
They're distinct to their environment.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just more like, I especially in the moments where I was missing Hawaii,
Yeah.
right?
But I mean, yours produces coconut, so that
Yes.
I
You guys
think
don't have coconut palms in California.
no,
Not
just desert
normally. Yeah,
palms.
more
You have
desert
your
style palms.
desert palms. But yeah, that's cool, and I've enjoyed that a lot. And of course, you kind of get a mix here on Oahu. You have a little bit of a mix of drier climates, like if you go out into Everside. So
Sure.
that part reminds me a little bit of
Yeah,
California. It's a
kind of get out
little
into the plains
yeah, a little
of Ewa
hot
and
out
Kapolei.
there. But then you've got the jungle, the rainforest. It's just that's really neat. I think is beautiful, different from what I grew up hiking in, which was the San Bernardino Mountains,
It's like a
and
dry, very
yeah, you've got
desert landscape mountain
well,
feel.
no, I'm talking about like forest, like San Bernardino Mountains, where you have like
Oh
these
yeah, yeah.
gorgeous, you know, pine
Pine
trees.
trees and stuff like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
and the smell is different. Whether here it the smell it's a like I don't know how to describe the forest smell, but it's like a mixture of wet mud and I don't know. It's not my favorite. When we start hiking, I'm like, it just smells. I don't know if it's just like maybe just the BO, and like it's trapped in there and we're all hiking and panting. But yeah, it's not my favorite, but something that I do miss about hiking in Southern California in the mountains, something that's like crisp and clean and fresh. Whereas like here, it's just a little bit, because I think it is warmer and more wet, you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
smell, um,
Almost not moldy
it's
smelling,
like
but
damp.
like it's kind of got that
Yeah.
general sense
Yeah.
of
There's like
this is never truly dried
yeah.
out.
Yeah. It smells wet. That's the
Yeah.
best way I can
On the flip side,
describe
though,
that.
California smells dusty all the
But
time.
yeah, that's
So
the weird part because we're flying in and then I'm like blinking, like everything just seems so like there's this big filter, this brown filter.
yeah, yeah. What are some of the things you miss or that were distinct? Sorry, that were distinct about coming here compared to California. I think the beaches would definitely be
Yeah, the
different
beaches
here.
are definitely different. I really enjoy the lagoons and the beaches here. I mean, all around the island, they're all unique. There's Lani Kai, there's North Shore, there's the one 10 minutes down here. We don't go to them. What are they called? What's the beach called? We went there fishing once. That's where Ricky lost his sunglasses.
Oh, you're talking about over at Sand Island.
Yeah, Sand Island, which is like, it's not the cutest place, but it's access to water.
Sure.
A little rocky.
Yeah. I think in California, not that I don't have a ton of experience with the beaches there, but from what it looks like to me, it's like, yeah, a lot of their beaches have little distinct features,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just something, but that's like on a large scale, but there's something distinct about our beaches here. Like one beach to the next, it's just like the sand is different, or the way that
Yeah.
the water
Mm-hmm.
itself flows up onto the shore, the coral
Mm-hmm.
reef, the break, like just everything.
Yeah, I thought we were a
To me,
ghetto in
unique.
Southern California when we'd be like swimming and there's a Dorito bag. But then,
To be clear, there are beautiful beaches in
yes,
SoCal.
yes. But then I moved here to Hawaii and then we're swimming and then I'm like, oh, well, there's a turd right there. There's like a poo that I'm swimming next to. So I'm like, I
Probably
can't
from like an
compare.
animal, like a turtle or something.
I don't know.
Who knows? Well,
I don't know.
we'll move on from that conversation.
So, but I mean, I can sit here and compare, but they're both unique and both
Sure.
beautiful, and that I love them both. But I do miss Southern California just because I spent the majority of my life there, and
What about the mountains here are different?
yeah, mountains are different.
Our mountains
They're
are
gorgeous
our
to look
mountains
at.
are not as large
Yeah,
as
they're
SoCal
very unique
mountains,
in their
but ours go more straight up.
yeah. And that's really cool, especially when it starts to rain and then you see why it has those fun grooves.
Mhm.
It's because the rain catches
It's
and
carved it out.
yeah, and it carves through. And then on a rainy day when you drive through the tunnel
Yeah.
and then you like
Come out and
and then you see all
mountains.
these, yes, the Ko'olau Mountains, you see all these beautiful waterfalls left and right, and then you feel like you're in Jurassic Park, and then you play the theme in your head or you start singing out loud. That is forever going to have just a wonderful place in my brain
Yeah.
that I will never forget. But also what I really love about Southern California, so the Back Springs Mountains, where I grew up, when it rained and then after it rained and it would be green, there was just something special about that. It was very different because,
Yeah.
I mean, all year round you would see it's like brown, except for that one, except for in spring. And it's gorgeous. And like it even smells good when the breeze would like blow over it or
Yeah.
through it.
So what do you miss the most about Southern California?
Oh, In and Out.
Yep. Nobody wants to. By the way, for those of you who aren't fans, no one cares.
That's
No
okay.
one wants to hear your opinion.
It's okay if you don't like it. I like it, and that's enough for me. And that means there's more for me.
I had In and Out. I just wasn't impressed.
Oh, don't make fun of people.
No one cares. You keep your opinion to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I'm missing it. That's the first thing. That's the first thing that we do. Is the first thing that we eat.
First and last.
Yeah.
If we can
What do you
swing
wanna
it,
do?
first and last thing is In and Out.
Remember that one time
We won't talk about that.
I stuffed
Oh,
about
that
like
one time. I thought you were talking about
6
the other
In-N-Out
one.
cheeseburgers in my carry-on, and yeah, and then
I thought you were talking about the time I had as many double doubles as days we were in California.
wow,
But yes, one time Jensen was in California
I came back.
and without me, and she brought back a box of double doubles.
Yes.
6 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make sure that we had enough.
I was very appreciative.
Well, and then I also didn't want them to kind of rattle around in the box. So I had to make sure that there wasn't enough wiggle room. So.
Yeah, so In and Out. What else? Food wise, what other
Well,
food?
my family's there, so familiar faces.
I was gonna say
People
before
that
you moved on from food, I was gonna say solid Mexican food.
Yes, solid Mexican food. There's only one place here that I would like give a 2 thumbs up, and that's Surf and Salsa. If you come to Hawaii, you need to try Surf and Salsa.
There are other good places.
Yes.
That's been the only one that you so far.
There's Mexico
Surf
restaurant.
and Salsa is the only one that you have classified as like this is great.
Yeah, I think maybe partly because.
But you've
of
also
the
had good
experience
experiences
as well.
at restaurant. I think you've just felt like the other restaurants haven't been consistent, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, tastes a little Filipino.
But in SoCal, there is good Mexican food at every turn, right?
Yeah.
And you think you found the best Mexican restaurant, and then someone takes you to another one, and you're like, that was even better. And then someone takes you to another one, and you're like, that was even better.
Yeah. Yep. But so yeah, that
You still have family in Southern California?
yeah,
you're
I
saying?
do. Yeah, my grandfather is still there, who is moving back to the Philippines this year. So I'm excited for him because he's lonely.
One of your sisters is still there, and her husband, a couple of your aunts and uncles, extended family beyond that, friends that you grew up with.
Grew up, church friends, church family.
Yeah, still a lot of people that we know.
Yeah,
it's hard because when we go there, we feel like when we are visiting there, we feel like almost jerks because there's so many people we know and could visit. We can't
visit everybody.
We can't visit everybody. It's sometimes that's really
and that's
difficult.
not a vacation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we were here to spend time with our family and to relax, so we can't just be running around Southern California. Because again, it's a 2-hour drive everywhere.
Yeah,
right.
When you're limited with time, so, but
yeah. What anything else that you would say you particularly miss? Do you ever miss the size of it? I mean, going from a big place like California,
I do miss
versus
the access.
Hawaii.
Like you could just drive and go somewhere. Well, I mean, you can drive here in Hawaii too, but you're just gonna end up on the same place.
Circled once, circled twice, circled the third time. How many times can we circle the island in one day? I wonder. How many times could we circle the island? In one way, I'm like, that would be a fun video idea. But then I'm like,
that's a lot of
gas. That would be an expensive video idea. We need to be making money from YouTube before we do something like that.
What else do I miss? I do miss the different seasons. It wasn't extreme like the Northeast where you would have fall colors. We would have some trees that would do that. Of course, the foliage is a little bit different. We would get hail. We didn't get snow unless you lived closer to higher altitudes.
Yeah. Southern California really was no snow unless you were up in the mountains or a higher altitude.
Maybe once I remember growing up, school friends had snow at their house, but we didn't. We're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not cool.
Though 3 years ago,
Oh.
the mountain that you grew up on did get covered in snow.
Hey,
Somebody sent us a
finally.
picture. You don't remember that? It's just a couple years ago. I
I do remember there was a huge deal about like it was snowing, and I was like, oh, it's abnormal. But yeah, so we didn't get snow where I grew up, but we got a lot of cold weather.
Windy,
yeah, hot, like hundreds, like 101.
I can tell you what you don't miss about Southern California. The wildfires.
Yeah, and that was just part of our day. That was just part of life, just like the smoky air during the summer. I remember watching brush fire in our backyard. We're just watching and then just waiting to see if we needed to get a notification for evacuation, but we never did. But we could watch it from our back. But of course, it was a normal thing. They knew how to handle those fires.
Yeah.
Or controlled fires.
Anything else that you feel like I don't miss about Southern California?
Okay, what I don't miss was driving through, I forget what town, but they had chicken coops. And it smelled so bad. So bad. Like, just terrible. Like, yuck. And yeah, but that was the one thing that I like. And every time we drove by that place, it was like, it smelled terrible. But I don't miss. I don't know. I mean, I don't have like terrible memories there. So overall, my childhood experience and even into adult life, they're all been wonderful. So
yeah, nothing but love for California.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah, Jensine definitely gets frustrated when people want to hate on California. People love to hate on California.
Yeah.
Especially like in the Christian circles. Yeah. People love to hate on California.
Or like
Jensine gets real frustrated with them. Just like, because her argument is like, you're not from there. You don't understand. Yeah.
It gets frustrating.
It's not everything you see on the news media like, or anything like that. Everything like that.
Are you saying like my entire life is just... it wasn't that great and you're discrediting everything wonderful that I've experienced?
Sure.
But of course, they just don't understand.
Well, we'll close it out with this question because I know we got to go. Yeah. But
is there someone?
Yep.
Oh.
Barbie. Is that a real thing? Are people actually like that in Southern California?
Some chicks are.
Some people are.
Yeah, that's okay.
That new Barbie movie just came out. I haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. But that's a real thing. But so Southern California to Hawaii.
And maybe next time we'll get to hear about your childhood.
We'll see. But that's all for today. We're going to close it out. But definitely like, subscribe, leave a comment. Where did you grow up? Where have you moved to? What things do you love about where you grew up? Or if you're from Southern California. Oh, Gracie, chill out. We got to close this out because she's freaking out.
Okay, but, and bye.
All right, bye. It's been Below the Surface, Caleb and Jensine. I'm Caleb. She's Jensine. See you next time.
See ya.